It's Monday, October 8, 2012, and let's talk about what happened this weekend over at XDAdevelopers.com. First off, some Android leak and update news. Lately, we've been seeing a lot of leaks out of the Samsung Galaxy S3, which has left a lot of people wondering what's going on with the HTC One X. Why haven't we seen anything about Jelly Bean for it? Well, fortunately, XDA recognized developer Bad News has gone ahead and released a Jelly Bean leak for the HTC One X. However, this is not a leak for the average everyday user. This is more geared toward developers. A lot of things aren't working quite properly. It does take a little bit of knowledge to actually get it to flash on your device, so I would say just don't jump in quite yet. If you are a developer and you want to know more about this, you can always read about it over on the development thread and just see if it's going to work for you and see if it's the kind of thing you're ready to jump into. Additionally, this should be an excellent jumping off point for some custom ROMs to be made for the device as well. Another piece of good news from this weekend was XDA recognized developer Ferriob has gone ahead and released the official 4.1.1 European ROM for the Galaxy Note 2 N7100. Now the nifty thing about this firmware specifically is that it implements this multi-windowed feature where you can have two different applications running side by side or top and bottom on your screen and control them both independently at the same time. You can also switch between a certain set of applications down at the bottom. I've seen a video demonstrating it, but I don't have the device or the firmware to test it with or show it off or anything. Still, very cool feature to have. And apparently the author of the post seems to think that this kind of feature might be back portable, maybe to the i9100. I think if nothing else, it should be portable to maybe the other Note. I don't know, don't take my word on that, I'm just throwing it out there. And also this weekend, thanks to XDA recognized developer Dragon's Killer, we now have an unofficial CM10 Alpha 1 for the Motorola Droid X2. And the list of working things is actually surprisingly long for a device of this age. The biggest thing I've seen listed wrong with it are some stability issues, the camera has some minor issues, and some specific ice cream sandwich and jelly bean apps will just crash. Not necessarily all the time, but they will crash from time to time. So if you have the Droid X2 and you're interested in having a copy of Jelly Bean running on it, you may want to take a look at the thread, which will be linked to down in the video description. Now the next story I was extremely excited to read, and I was extremely excited to share with you. The story title is Android 4.2 Incoming, Key Lime Pie Rumors, Speculation, and More. And it's essentially a really long post linking back to an article over on AndroidMe.com talking all about some leaked rumors about Android 4.2, things that might be happening in it, coming from a semi-official source, supposedly. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be telling you that story tonight because it came out just about a half an hour ago that it was false. There was a big old hoax, and the only thing that was a big nugget of truth out of it was that there is supposed to be an LG official Nexus device coming in the next few months. All the rest of it, the customization center where you can enable and disable the custom UIs like TouchWiz and all of the other vendor-specific ones on your device, that's a whole bunch of hooey, and it really sort of ticks me off that someone would do this. I will say, luckily I did hear about this before I started talking. Thanks so much to Azrienoch for pointing it out on Twitter. Anyway, let's move on. As I may or may not have mentioned to you guys, I have a son, I have a 3-year-old son, and he's currently got a tablet, but it's one of those little kitty leapfrog tablets. So it's kind of limited, and all of the games for it are extraordinarily expensive. However, in the last few months, last year, I think, another tablet has been released specifically for kids at all sorts of major vendors everywhere. It's called the Nabi tablet, N-A-B-I. Well, they recently, in the last couple of months, released an update to the Nabi tablet, making it the Nabi 2, and the specs on it are actually kind of similar to the Nexus 7, as is the price. It's a 7-inch screen, it does have a 1024x600 display, so it's not quite the same, it's actually a lot lower resolution. Has 8 gigs of storage, 1 gig of RAM, it's got the same kind of processor, the Tegra 3 quad-core processor that the Nexus 7 has. And on top of that, it has an SD card slot. So realistically, if you wanted the Nexus 7, but you don't want the Nexus 7 not having the SD card slot, this might be a good alternative. I'd been considering one myself for a little while for my little boy, or maybe just to screw around with myself, because you can disable all of the kitty interface features if you want to. And I'd kind of wondered what XDA's stance was going to be on it, what they were going to do with it, if anything. Well, apparently just this weekend they got root, they got recovery, and they got Google Apps running on it, so that's pretty awesome. So if you have a kid in your life who might enjoy a tablet that is ridiculously powerful and actually can now access the Google Play Store, you may want to take a look at this. It's about $199 wherever you go. I've seen it at Walmart and Best Buy and a bunch of other major retailers, and of course you can always find it online. Now, in another piece of really good news, especially for people like me who have the Galaxy Nexus, an exploit was released this weekend to allow you to root your Galaxy Nexus without actually having to go through the traditional unlocking and rooting process. Normally, if you want to root your device, you have to unlock it, and that all involves wiping the device. And if you've had it for a while and you've got a bunch of stuff stuff on it, wiping it out may not be the best option, may not be something you can quickly and easily do. Well, thanks to XDA forum moderator Efrent, and I believe XDA recognized developer Binary, we now have a way to do that without having to wipe your device. It's definitely not a quick and easy, one-step method or anything. It essentially involves pushing a couple of files to your device, restoring from a fake backup that contains these files, rebooting into an emulator mode, and then a bunch of other steps to actually get the root to happen. But like I said, if you've got a device that's filled up with data and you don't want to have to back everything up to restore it all later, this may be a good option for you. As always, do make sure to check out the original thread, read through all the steps, make sure it's going to work for you, make sure there's not any sort of catch-ups or gotchas or anything like that before you do it. Now, this last story I'm going to talk about is one that is extremely interesting to me, as I've been doing some kind of Java programming at work. For a while now, you've been able to take an APK file from a device and decompile it and see what's inside of it, but you haven't actually been able to see the original Java code. You've just been able to see the compiled things and the resources and whatever else. But now, thanks to XDA recognized contributor Broodplank1337, we now have a way to actually turn these APK files back into the original Java that generated them. It's still considered a very early beta, but he says that it works wonderfully, says that it's very successful. So realistically, you should be able to take whatever APK you want, you should be able to break it down to its original components and see how it's all put together. Sort of makes me wonder how long it's going to be before Google releases some sort of a fix to keep this from happening. I'd honestly like to see just the original method for making that happen though. So yeah, if you're an aspiring Android developer, or you're a modder or a themer or something like that, and you want to know more about the apps that you're working on, or if you just want to learn more about apps in general, you might take a simple one and use this to turn it back into the original Java to see what kind of things you'd need to work with. Very cool story. That's all as far as news stories are concerned for this week. If you haven't seen it already, Azrienoch put out a video on Saturday talking about how we're going to be at the Big Android BBQ on the weekend of the 18th through the 21st. If you haven't already gotten your tickets, sorry, you're a bit out of luck. I think they're completely out at this point, but do make sure to go watch his video to get all the specifics on who's going to be there, what we're going to be doing, and all that fun stuff. But like I said, that's all from me for today. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.